I've got an overgrown trail here.
Yeah, that'll happen.
So I'm screwed when it comes to getting past it?
Screwed until you clear it yourself, yeah.
Great. Well, if I come across some tools, I'll add groundskeeping to my ever-increasing list of responsibilities. Anything I should know about the cabin at the top of this hill? Hello? Okay, then.
Hi, Ollie.
Hi, Sean.
It's nice that we're doing a tape together.
I know, is this the first one?
It's our first and only one.
Oh, that's a shame.
I feel like we've done so much together. Not on tape. At least not recorded in the way that you know about.
Okay.
And here we are talking about Hawk's Rest.
Hawk's Rest.
You concepted this area.
Yeah, the idea was that it would seem from the outside a sort of innocuous little house on the edge of a cliff, much like your own lookout, but when you open the door you get the surprise that it's been burnt away and you just see a vista and sort of rush of wind as you open that door, and I thought that would be a really fun reveal to the player.
Yeah, and I sort of screwed it up when I first wrote this scene, because all of these sort of Hawk's Rest dialogue and all the stuff about Raccoon Carter was, as you were walking up the hill, you could report the cabin, which was a lookout tower, at the top of the hill, and then get into this story about its former inhabitant as you were approaching it, and then it sort of buried the moment in a way. So we took all that stuff out, and I hacked in very inelegantly, I think, that Delilah just doesn't answer you when you ask her about what the house at the top of the hill is, and then you get to experience it alone before getting the story about Raccoon Carter, and I'm really happy with the way that worked out. Also,
there's a secret.
But the raccoon that lives in the stove that you may or may not know about is only there on certain days because of a myriad of design reasons. But if you're here on any day that isn't day 2 and you open that stove, there's a little critter in there. And that was animated by James, textured by Ollie, drawn by Ollie. I really like that raccoon, Oliver.
Thanks, Sean.
You did a very nice job on that raccoon. Also, you did a very nice job on the rest of the game, and I'm only going to tell you that on the Hawk's Rest tape. I'm actually going to edit this out. I don't want anyone hearing me ever compliment you.
Fantastic.
In the record, but because it's our only tape together. But yeah, I really love the way this area came together.
It's lovely. Lovely the way it is. Very nice. Well done.
Hey, Chris again.
And Sean.
Hey, if you saw the second trailer for Firewatch, there's a moment that takes place here where Delilah points out that there's someone in Henry's tower. Henry points out that he's not there. Camera swings back to the tower, and it's a big dramatic ending. Of course, that moment happens in a completely different part of the map in the actual game and has totally unrelated to this moment that you're now experiencing.
And this was a trailer that we had debuted with Sony at E3, so we knew we had a big audience and that a lot of people were going to see it. It's really, really challenging. I mean, you all know, because everyone goes to movies, what it's like to watch a trailer for a movie that you're excited about and maybe have already decided to see and then be shown too much stuff.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, a movie either has like the ability to or sort of the chutzpah to just show you a scene that hit the cutting room floor or an alternate version of something that gets you feeling the way you should feel and excited for the movie as presented, but doesn't spoil it for you. And I think I'm really happy that we ended up doing that. I think it's good. Like, you're not lying. It's not like we showed you a mechanic that you can't do or anything like that.
I think that we basically had to find a way to accurately convey the type of tension and mood of the game without spoiling it. And so we basically ended up just writing those trailers to fit. I think it worked.
Yeah, I'm happy with them.
Well, I hopped down a drop and now I can't climb back up.
That is a pickle.
I mean, I can just keep hiking, but I figured I should let you know in case I get myself trapped out here.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen before you find these assholes. I was thinking you should probably head back to where you saw them last.
Hi, it's Ben.
Oh, it's Jake. Hey, Ben. So let's talk about Henry's camera. Or I guess, more specifically, the Goodwin family camera. We liked the idea of Brian and his dad bringing one of those little cardboard cameras out with them, and we had thought at various points in production, maybe we should cut taking photos because it's really complicated. Maybe you should just just see the ones at the end in the credits and be shocked by the Goodwin family.
When I joined the project, I actually was super excited about this feature. I liked the idea of having the camera have a little bit of a real-world feel to it. People seem to like when you showed an animated GIF of it on Twitter. People went crazy remembering these things.
Especially once the idea was proposed that on PC you could print out your photos or you could upload them to the internet and get them developed, which is the thing that we do.
Yeah, the photos that we take are actually secretly 5 megapixel, first generation digital camera quality photos, but just good enough that if you print them out, they look okay.
Yeah, once we went all in on that as a concept, it seemed like having the camera in the game was an essential no-brainer, and then we went all in on making it work like a real camera. We really wanted, you'll have a fixed number of shots you can take. Every time you take a picture, Henry has to wind the camera by hand.
And some players ignore it and don't take pictures. They'll take the 2 that Delilah tells you to, and then the end credits will play and they'll see 2 pictures and maybe have a little feeling of loss that they didn't participate in that feature.
Yeah, or people who get super bummed because they get really into the mystery and take pictures of strange machines and ripped up campsites and a dead Brian Goodwin, and then get to the end credit sequence and go, "Oh, that was me."
Yeah, they only see the sad things. And those people win.
Depending on how much you use the camera and what you choose to take a picture of, you end up getting a different story at the end of the game. That's the thing that I think worked out the best with the camera and made me the happiest that we actually went all out on building this stupid thing.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Hey, Chris here.
And Patrick.
Hey, Patrick. So at this point in the game, we're starting off on the search for the teens. One big challenge we frequently had on Firewatch was figuring out how to guide players when the person giving you your current objective doesn't actually know where to send you. Delilah knows you need to find the teens, but neither of you have any idea where to start.
And in this case, we'd used telephone poles to get you up to Beartooth Point, and we're now using some beer cans to sort of lead you in the general direction away from that. Of course, we rapidly saw that these teens were drinking a truly ludicrous number of beers in one walk.
I think you and I both placed quite a few of these beer cans, probably you even more than I.
Yep.
It started to sort of strain credulity.
Right, which is why I think we had to add that case at the end just to make it plausible that there are something like 30 cans out there.
Right.
Yeah.
Probably the best tool we ended up coming up with for this, which was the smoke plume,
right,
was because we were getting increasingly uncomfortable with stretching fiction so far to the point of adding this many like Hansel and Gretel
That's right.
beer cans.
That's right. And but even then, the smoke plume was not enough. Many players didn't notice it or weren't looking up, which we know is a common game design problem. And that's when we started adding dialogue where Henry could call into Delilah and basically say, "Where do you have any ideas? I'm lost. I still can't find them." Kind of mirroring what we saw in playtesting, where people did get lost and got frustrated.
Right.
Ultimately, when that fell down,
Eventually, if you have not noticed anything, you haven't asked Delilah about any of this stuff, she will just call you and say, "Hey, I see some smoke. Maybe that's where you should go."
right, and that pretty well sews it up.
The sort of full court press of all of those things. I think most players eventually find their way to the teens. I mean, we figured it was okay for players to get lost a little bit. I mean, that is the point of this. You are supposed to be on an aimless search a little bit on this
Right.
mission. But, I think with all of the different tools we added in, most players eventually feel like they're actually
Right.
on some kind of trail.
I mean, I suggested an omniscient satellite AI that could contact you and tell you
Yeah.
exactly where to go, but that was shot
So,
down.
yeah, it was a late cut.
Yeah.
Hey, Delilah?
What do you got? You found him?
No, not yet. Why would there be a fence out here?
Because sometimes hikers go ass over tea kettle when on a trail.
So the Forest Service would put up a big chain link fence?
A chain link fence?
Yeah. It looks like it surrounds a huge area.
Huh. That's weird.
Do you think those girls could be behind this fence?
Well, having once been an ornery young woman, the last thing I would do is climb a fence. Especially if I knew I was in trouble.
I don't even know how I would get in.
It's really strange that that's out there, by the way.
Yeah, it's weird.
Oh, hey, this is Ben again, and I'm here with Paolo.
Hello, I'm Paolo. I was the graphics programmer on Firewatch.
So we're here to talk a little bit about the time of day system that the game uses and the skybox stuff. You're in an area where there's a weird device that you can use to step and mess around with those while we talk.
As you can see around you right now, you can walk on the different parts there, and you'll see the weather changing. So immediately when we started working on Firewatch, there were a couple of important points. We had to have a dynamic time of day. So at any point, people could trigger changing the sky, changing the fog, changing each individual component independently. At the same time, this has all sorts of technical implications, but the most important are, okay, how do we represent all this information? Games have many ways of baking data, which means that you sort of gather the lighting information in a scene and then you save it into memory, which is usually a texture or other data structures, to then use it in real time. Now, the problem with that was that we had a lot of different permutations and we wanted them to change in real time. And also, we didn't know ahead of time how many we were going to have. So we tried to go with a fully dynamic solution. In this case, what dynamic means is just that as you walk around, you'll see the sun moving around, the sky color changing, the fog color changing, and the shadows moving. So all those components are always rendered every frame, and there's no information that is stored anywhere.
So what pieces make up the sky again?
The sky, we tried first an approach of representing sort of a simplified version of the scattering equation and seeing what that would look like. And it was looking good in the game, but it was still very difficult to author. And since Ollie, as the art director, is absolutely talented with colors, at some point we just sat down and we sort of worked together and said, okay, imagine that you could just paint the sky in Photoshop and think about how that would work in the game. It might just magically work. And by doing that, we basically dissected his process of assembling just a painted sky in Photoshop, and we created a shader, which are basically programs that run on the GPU to render things, that suited his exact style. So really, the sky is just a series of gradients that blend into each other with a couple of controls to change curves and attenuations between them. So as you walk around, you'll be able to see how both the sky changes and then the fog adapts to the same color and the sun moves in the right direction. And then there were just a couple of numbers to make sure that like the brightness around the sun would be higher so that it would still sort of represent and give the feeling of what the sky and how the sky behaves.
And this like gave Ollie the ability to test some things very quickly.
Exactly. Having immediate feedback for filling a world that was as big as Firewatch, especially for the sort of limited team size that we had, was absolutely important. Like, we had to have a way so that artists would make something quickly, have an idea of what it would look in the game, and knowing that it was pretty close to what we were going to ship.
Yep.
Hey, Jane.
Hi, Jake. Let's talk about how I almost killed you over this canyon crossing.
Why would anyone have any objection to something in a game as lovely as this area?
So originally, when we first built this whole canyon, you can only walk through the bottom where the creek is.
It looks really lovely when you're walking on the bottom looking up.
And you cannot get close to anything.
You can just imagine what the top of the canyon looks like, and you don't ever have to see it or make it.
Basically, there was nothing up here.
But what if, think about this though, what if you could walk across the top of it and look down, and then we built all of that too?
I just remember the day when you mocked this out in a paper map and just gingerly just showed it to me. And then I looked at it and I was like,
what's that line? What's that line doing going over there?
No way, Jake.
There was no way I was going to win that. I mean, I ended up just building a lot of it myself to try
and I think you were like, okay, how about this other thing? I was like, okay, this other thing is fine, but this is definitely not happening.
I just secretly built a million walls and trees and like did every single thing that I possibly could to make it so you would look at it.
You did a good job though, because like the thing I was really worried about was when you're up there, you end up seeing basically the whole length of the canyon and then also all the way to basically towards Delilah's tower, which means it's like
way
all
the way through the Beartooth Point.
It would be
area,
like way too much game to try to draw.
Mule Point.
So that was the original sort of,
It was a lot of very careful, then you go around this turn and then you secretly drop down 3 feet and a bunch of huge trees come up. I was very happy that we were able to get the canyon
Yeah.
crossing in because it's one of the few places where I think you do a total figure eight over yourself.
It was nice that you managed to problem solve all the sightline areas before I lose my mind.
Thanks for not killing me. I'm alive to be on this commentary track.
Whoa, Delilah, the trail I hiked in on, it's gone.
What is this, the Twilight Zone?
No, there was a rock slide. Is there another path out of the thoroughfare?
Let me think.
Oh my god, I guess I'm lucky I wasn't on it when it happened.
Yeah, for sure. You know, without some impossible mountaineering, there's not really another way out.
So what the hell?
We'll fly you out? I mean, sometimes folks get cut off by fire and we just scoop them up when it's time to go.
Okay.
Don't be nervous.
Maybe I'll just live out here now.
Henry the Hermit.
Maybe I'll find myself a baby bear to keep as a pet and live off the land like Grizzly Adams. Wow, there's an old, I think it's called a medicine wheel out here.
Yeah, it was made by Crow American Indians hundreds of years ago. There are lots of small ones. Have you ever been to Medicine Wheel Monument over in the Bighorns?
Well, I sure haven't.
Well, it's worth a 3-hour detour on the way home in August.
Neat. I'll keep it in mind. I'm back at the shale slide. You know, the one that nearly killed me yesterday.
You ready to give it another shot?
Do I seriously have to?
To get down to 5 Mile Creek? Yeah, afraid so. It's quite a ways downhill from here.
Hi, this is Will.
And this is James again.
We're talking about the rope right now. You should be one nearby.
Yeah, the rope was the very, very first thing I ever did in the entire game. It kind of seeped into being quite an important part of the world layout. We sort of had this whole Metroidvania items thing, and the rope was very much our first, that's the rockets that let you get through the door in Metroid. It was such an early flag we planted in the ground for ourselves. So, yeah, there were lots of technical things, weren't there?
All the rope climbs are different. All the rope slides are different. Minorly different, but different enough. So the rope had to be physically simulated. It couldn't be just a pre-canned animation. In order to get that to work, it took a ton of time, lots of iterations. In the end, I had to basically make Henry's hand a gravity well whenever he's on the rope, and then grab the nearest parts of the rope and reskin them to bones that I was just making out of math around Henry's hand and belt. So his left hand, right hand, and belt are all take over as fake bones, and we reskin the rope every frame to get that to match up perfectly. And if you look real close at the rope, you can see sort of a little bit in front of his hands, the texture on it. The tiling changes and kind of squishes and stretches and squishes and stretches as you go down, and that's because the rope position doesn't naturally always line up with even spacing when I swap in those fake bones.
Yeah, the rope is one of the best examples if you were to zoom the camera out and look at what's going on, where I'm sort of animating by the seat of my pants and just keeping his hands in the perfect position so that transition between the physics rope and the skinning version of the rope, doesn't blend too strangely. And it's probably the set of animations in the game that has the most versions made. There's probably 10 different versions of climbing down. There used to be things where your hands would swap in front of you, picking the rope from one to the other, and obviously that is unbelievably, ridiculously complicated once we had a physical rope. And
nice thing is you can get on it from anywhere and at any time, and it all works. So it was worth it in the end, but quite a bit of effort.
Hello, this is Jane again,
And Chris.
and we are now by the lake. And you might be noticing that there's some really sweet duck sounds by the lake.
Jane bugged me for duck sounds for months. Actually, one of the oldest, we track our tasks on the game with like a task tracker or a bug tracker. So you rank them all by priority. And I think the like lowest or second lowest priority thing on my list for months was duck sounds for Jane. And that just sat there until I think one day I just didn't have a lot to do. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm bumping the duck sounds up the chain. I think I just looked on the internet for public domain duck noises.
Yeah, I think you were actually wondering what kind of ducks there would be too. You were
I
very
looked it
thorough.
up. I researched it, and I think I was like mainly there. Like I think I fudged it a little bit because I didn't want it to just be like the same I wanted there to be a variety so it didn't get annoying if you hung out there for a while.
It's not just ducks, it's like waterfowl.
Yeah,
of all
so
kinds.
so I branched out a bit, but we got them in.
Yay!
Thanks for bugging me about the duck sounds.
Yeah, it won't be a real lake without duck sounds.
Exactly.